All right, folks. Welcome to the first episode of the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast in 2025. And in this one, we chat with actor Ty Olsson about growing up on the stage, conquering fears, fantasy fiction, supernatural, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there. And without further ado, here you go. All right, Ty, take us back in time. You're a youngster, you a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all the above?
All of the above, for sure, for sure. I was an avid reader from a fairly young age, but I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, which is on the snow belt. So particularly forts in the winter, you'd make snow forts that would like multi-roomed snow forts, like little mansions. And I lived in a rural area for a lot of it, so you get a lot of snow drifts and come out over the fields and stuff. And troublemaker, man. I'm just, yeah, I still am a bit of a troublemaker. I never quite grew out of that one.
If you don't mind me asking, what kind of trouble we talking? Like knocking mailboxes over, or
No,
yeah.
so I didn't do personal destruction, but I mean, I grew up in Children's Aid Society care of the Crown, and so I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I grew up in a really kind of negative childhood. So
Mm.
I mean, I stole cars and broke into my school and got into fights and caused a lot of trouble. When you're young, you don't know how to, and you go through so much trauma. There's only so many ways to express it. So
Yeah.
luckily, I did grow out of that kind of trouble.
So, was anyone in your family, parents or otherwise, or guardian, were they artistically inclined at all? You think that's where your roots come from?
So my biological father's musical, and he didn't pass any of it down, the bastard. But he's very musical. He was a singer, played 12-string guitar, flute bass. I don't have a lot of contact with my extended family, so it's hard to know who was talented and who wasn't. But I think it certainly dabbled throughout my family history. Yeah,
Mm, mm.
some musical talent and some theatrical talent, if you will.
So, when you think back to formative films and TV shows that you grew up on yourself, what comes to mind initially?
I don't know if you guys ever watched The Littlest Hobo. Do you remember that show?
I'm not familiar with it.
It's a Canadian thing about like a German Shepherd dog that basically it's like Lassie saves the day everywhere it goes.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I grew up. It's so funny. I'm Gen X. I'm 51, so I remember like living so rural that we had a party line. Like phone party lines. So there was only a couple channels. I watched a lot of MASH. I remember like the Sunday night Disney movie would come on, but I've never been a huge TV guy. I read more than I watch. I think I've gotten more into TV in the last few years because the writing's so excellent now. But yeah, I think some Canadian classics like Little Hobo, Beachcombers.
There's so much more you can do in TV these days, just because I think streaming services and the big budgets is it used to be just sitcoms and stuff like that. Now you can really get into the weeds and have some hour plus
Yeah,
long TV shows and such.
yeah, and I think all the really best writers have gone from like features into TV because they can now you can design a story that's over a certain length of time, as opposed to trying to tell a story in a movie in a couple hours in a movie. You can do it through seasons. So character development, story development, all of that is you've got room for a lot more nuances and subtlety and taking your time and laying out story. And so there's some really fantastic TV writer right now.
Yeah, for sure. You said you like reading. What are some authors and novels and such that just
A
stick out
couple of
to
my
you?
favorite authors. Well, shout out to Susie Hinton from who wrote The Outsiders and Rumblefish, and that was then this now. She's one of my favorite youth writers. But now Robin Hobb, Farseer trilogy, and Patrick Rothfuss, David Gemmell, David Eddings. Yeah, a lot of fantasy stuff, a lot of escapism, a lot of heroic fantasy, things like that.
Mm, right up my alley. I grew up on Robert Howard on
Oh
all the
yeah,
Conan stories.
yeah, yeah.
Big into that.
Have you read Robin Hobb?
I'm not familiar with them. No.
You've got to. It's a woman. You've got to read the Farseer trilogy.
Okay.
If that's your genre, you'll love it.
Okay,
You'll love
I'm gonna
it.
check that out.
Yeah.
So were you a would you say you were a big theater goer, maybe the drive-in or anything like that?
I remember. I think I only went to the drive-in once. I was an adult. We didn't have a lot in the area that I was in, and I think that there's only one left that I know of. Lower Mainland of Vancouver. No, like see, yeah, like I said, I'm kind of rural Canadian with not a lot of TV channels. So I mean, the very first movie I ever saw in the theater was The Empire Strikes Back,
Mm,
which is a cool kind of like generational thing to say. I saw that in the theater for the first time. I was young, very young, but yeah, I just again more books. I think the first book I ever read was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe with C.S. Lewis.
good one.
So yeah, yeah.
I can vividly remember my grade school teacher. I think I was in first grade reading that to the class, and she was very theatrical with it. That sticks out to me too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Theater, I got into it fairly young in middle school. I had a teacher that recognized that I needed a better way to focus my energy. So she made me audition for the school plays. I played Henny Penny was afraid the sky is gonna fall.
Mm.
And I was always a big kid too. And I came from, a bit of a tough kid, and so she thought it was funny, and rightly so, to make me play Henny Penny was afraid the sky's gonna fall. And then the next year played one of Cinderella's evil stepsisters. So that was my first taste of the theater, and it got me hooked.
What records were spinning around the house when you were growing up?
I all as younger brothers most often are influenced by my oldest brother, who's passed away, was a big Black Sabbath Ozzy fan. So uh, that was probably one of the first things that I remember from a fellow teenager or soon to be teenager kind of thing. I mean, country was kind of my stepfather and my mom's stuff, which I didn't really love it back then, but I remember hearing the dark, ominous sounds of Black Sabbath and Ozzy from my older brothers and going, "Ooh, what's that?"
Black Sabbath doesn't really have a bad vocalist. You can pick any era. You go from
Yeah,
Ozzy to Dio and
yeah.
Tony Martin. I love Black Sabbath too. You said your dad. I think you said your dad was musical, but did you ever play an instrument or anything yourself?
No, and I keep threatening to. you know what I really love is I love piano. I keep kind of threatening to go and take some lessons someday, and I hope I will. Trying to keep the brain active and keep yourself challenged and try new things. And I think it will just. I think I avoid doing it because it'll make me sad if I'm not good at it. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds
Hey,
silly, but
you'll probably be shitty to start off, but
yeah,
you're still young. You
yeah,
got plenty
yeah,
of
I know.
time.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's fair enough. Yeah, so I'd love to be able to play piano. But I think everybody dreams of that. Like so I always dream of being able to walk into one of those a really nice hotel and you see the beautiful baby grand there and go, oh, let me help myself do this. you know?
Oh, I play
Um,
a little.
do you? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, you could just say I play a little,
Oh,
and
I'll
then
play a little,
then just
yeah.
kill it.
Yeah. Murder some Chopin. Yeah.
So, a question I like to ask everyone, and you can take it whichever way you want to go with it. Is what scared you as a kid?
My stepfather terrified me.
Mm,
Um, but other than that, I think I was pretty fearless. I was such an angry kid because of things that I couldn't control, and anger is such a safe emotion. Like if you anger replaces fear, replaces vulnerability, replaces sadness. So I think I had such a massive fear of him being a young boy that after that, nothing made me afraid. I was just angry about everything.
yeah,
So anything that made me afraid made me angry. And
yeah,
to this day, it kind of does that. Makes me, if I'm afraid of something at the time, usually I'll reply with anger, which is both a good and a bad thing at the same time. But I'm afraid. Oh, my biggest phobia is dementia and Alzheimer's. The idea of losing who I am just freaks me the hell out.
yeah,
And I have standing orders in place to never let that happen from my loved ones. So,
yeah. I've had that happen in my family as well. It's a terrible disease.
my condolences. Yeah, I'd hate to watch. I hate to watch somebody else lose their cognitive ability like that, and also the family. Terrible for the family.
Yeah, it's bad on the individual, and equally as bad on the caregivers.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
it's an ugly one.
just shifting that a little in terms of fear. Would you consider yourself a horror fan growing up, or did you like horror
Um,
movies?
I did like. I mean, I remember the original Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. So, um, I am a fan, but I don't scare easily.
Mm,
Um, because it makes me angry. Being afraid makes me angry now. So So I think half the problem I have watching those is like turn around and fight him. Don't run away. Like or where are you going upstairs? What the hell's upstairs? Nothing's upstairs. you know. So so I think I like ones that have a little certain amount of psychological twists to them these days, as opposed to like the original Saw was so creepy.
Yeah.
You know, Eli Roth's what's it called, the name's running tip my tongue. Starts with an H. Eli Roth.
Hostel, maybe?
Hostel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like that was brilliant too. I haven't seen that one in years, but brilliant. Um, yeah. So I do like them, but I'm pickier about them,
Mm.
and I drive people nuts because people will be like, I'm like, I just saw that coming. Yeah.
You might punch them, get mad at
Yeah.
them. Just, I know you're in the industry, and like you said, you like certain kind of horror movies. Just to throw a recommendation out there, the Robert Eggers Nosferatu that just came out.
Oh yeah. Good
Man,
head.
oh man, it's amazing.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
up there with the classics.
What service is it streaming on?
It just came out in theaters, but the way things are now, it'll
Okay.
probably be on a stream,
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Amazon or something very soon.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Good.
So
DJ loves horror movies, so that's something maybe we can catch this week.
yeah, throw that Nosferatu out to him. If you've seen any other Eggers movies, it's along the same
Yeah. Yeah.
same
Cool.
beats. I think you said you were kind of ushered into theater when you were in sixth or seventh grade.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Now, after that, would you classify yourself as a theater kid growing up?
Yeah, I went to an arts high school named Canterbury in Ottawa, so it was specialized in the arts. It was kind of like, do you remember that old show Fame?
Yeah.
It was exactly like that. Less singing and dancing in the hallways, but like that. Yeah, so I did that for my high school career, and then prepped for Studio 58, which is a theater program here in Vancouver, BC.
Do you recall stage fright ever being an issue or anything like
Oh,
that?
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Nerves and um, in my early career of film and television auditions, I would get, and again, I would sometimes get so nervous, and then it would make me angry. So I would show up. I would show up to auditions like 2 hours early because you can only be nervous for so long. And then by the time I was going in, I was just angry that I'd wasted 2 hours sitting there when I didn't have to. And usually they're behind too, right? So something was longer than that. And so I would just be so pissed off at myself that I'd wasted so much time. And but you learn ways to trick yourself to, because your nerves are the things that get in the way of the creativity the most. And I still, to this day, I'm always nervous first day on set every time. And I've done 200 jobs, and but every time first. And if I'm say I'm on a show and I'm there 5, 6, 7 days, but I have a first day, and then my next first day is like a week later, or my next day is a week later. Then it feels like a first day again. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice to get a couple days in there and get to know people, and just get have a couple of good scenes under your belt so you can feel good about it. Um, so yeah, I still compete. I still struggle with some nerves some days, especially if you've been out of work for a while, like if over holidays and stuff,
Yeah.
or or over strikes. Coming back to work, and we always like, oh, and you're always dealing with new. There's so much that can go wrong on a TV set. There's so many personalities. So you could meet a director that you just rub the wrong way, and suddenly the tension's up, so the pressure's up, and or the writing in a particular scene's a little off, and you can feel it, but they won't let you change the dialogue, and you go like, so there's so many things that you have to compete against.
It's funny, speaking with actors over the years, it's weird to me that a lot of them say that as they've gotten older, they deal with stage fright more. And that's more with on stage itself. But
Yeah.
it's just odd because with more experience you think it would be lessened, but normally it's about remembering the lines on stage.
Well, ignorance is bliss too, right? Like,
Yeah.
you get to an age where you realize how delicate everything can be, and how quickly you can screw something up, or how easily a line could go gone. Yeah, and I think some things get and yes, with age, sometimes the memory's not quite as good as it used to be.
Are you familiar with Armin Shimmerman, the actor? Are you
The name
familiar with him?
sounds familiar.
I'm trying to think of Quark on Star Trek,
Okay, yeah.
the principal on Buffy. Yeah, I was speaking with him, and I always like to ask other actors this because I thought it was fascinating. And he said there's been maybe one or two times in his career on stage where he can't recall the performance at all, that he was in such a zone
Yeah,
and that he was that keyed in. Do you have,
yeah,
is there an experience that you have like that?
yeah. I mean, I do. I think I had one of those nights during a performance of Macbeth in theater school, and it was one of those where it was a very physical performance of like a post-apocalyptic shamanistic version. And it was a lot, it was very physical. Like there was my character kind of swung from underground sewer pipes and stuff, a hand over hand, and all these sword scenes were like with these giant steel pipes. And I think I kind of pulled a muscle, but not bad. You're young, you heal overnight.
Yeah.
But I think ironically, I think I'd taken some like painkillers for it. And I think I'm sure it was just in my head, but I suddenly was like, I realized that there was something just different about the night. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think I threw myself into it so much more like, not from a place of panic, but I was just not, like, I was just there. I was like, how'd that go? And people were like, really good. I was like, yeah, yeah, okay.
That's a good
Yeah,
sign.
yeah.
So during your time on stage, do you have a handful of personal favorite roles that you got to portray?
You know, I've been lucky. I've been lucky in my career to have played a really good range of fun characters on stage live. I played the character role in Macbeth, which is a meaty, fun role. I played a character that stuttered when it rained. Who's from Vancouver? I, I wrote a one-person show that I then turned into a two-hander that we self-produced at a small theater venue here the early 2000s. And then I went to film and television and got to play all sorts of characters over the years. And it's been a privilege to see 30 years of film and television and be part of some kind of iconic stuff and make a living and still more years to come. But I hope the industry's, always changing, always ups and downs, but I hope that I can continue on the same path. I'd love to have a role that goes past the season because because for whatever reason I kill a show after 1 year. Um, I'd love to have the opportunity to carry a role over multiple seasons and really be able to get a feel for that,
Mm.
that creative like arc over 3 or 4 seasons. But this industry has been good to me, and I just hope it continues the same way.
Are you still active on stage at all? Any desire there to get back
I
on?
haven't in a long time. The problem for so many years my kids were young and mortgages and blah blah blah. You kind of back yourself into a financial corner, and doing theater it's cost prohibitive. It's you got to take a pay cut to do it. I hope to get back to it. Um, I'd like a few more good years to come out of the COVID years and a divorce, and I'd like to pad that things a little bit more than to be able to have that space to go, okay, let's go do a show, get back on stage and scare the shit out of ourselves again.
In the same vein, if you removed all those external factors like, pay or travel, whatnot, do you have
Yeah.
more fun as an actor on the like behind a booth, on screen, on stage?
Wow. Yeah. Oh, see, on stage, there's nothing like it, and there's satisfaction in both performances, but the nights when you're on stage and you're like, man, it's hard to beat that. And it's so even more so than like film is so dependent on like the editing, the writing, the directing, the lighting, you can have this great performance and they can edit the hell out of it and kill it.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. You can have a terrible performance and they can fix it. And so you're like, hey, that's not that bad. But the theater doesn't lie, like when you're on there, when you're on stage in front of people, man, it's you.
Hmm.
And there's no help.
Exactly.
It's you and the other actors, and yeah, and so that's a sensation that's hard to duplicate.
Something I've picked up, like I said, speaking with actors, is that You always hear the terms, these all these different terms for different methods of acting and method acting, but it just seems like each actor has their own piece together, personalized method that works for them. So, what's
Yeah.
your method?
The last one I'll do whatever's needed to get the job done. I think the school of thought that I come from is have a toolbox with many tools in it so that you can face, you have many options when you're looking at problems. And that everything should be a tool to allow you to just submerge yourself into the character. And I think, personally, I think there's a danger of subscribing too overwhelmingly to any one tool because I I won't get into it. I personally think there's a danger to that. So it's about having a good, healthy toolbox with lots of options so that you can attack characters from different places and to get the job done.
I know you mentioned that you studied dance. Would you say that dance helps you with your acting, or acting helps with dance? Do they
I
inform each other?
wish I had studied enough to say that that was true because that would make me a dancer. But I am but I am not a dancer. I love to dance, but I am. I wouldn't call myself a dancer. I took some in high school, and let's be honest, there's a lot of hot girls in dance.
Yeah.
So so it wasn't purely altruistic my taking dance classes. Um, it was something. It was fun to do and watch pretty girls, and I did think it would be cool to like learn how to dance.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like ballet, so I mean, I'm not sure. It's not the same as like being able to walk onto a dance floor and and impress the ladies with ballet. Although my point is still wonderful.
Have you done any musicals?
No, and I wish that I had had the opportunity in theater school. I'm kind of phobic about my music ability, so I think I would take twice as long to be able to do anything.
Hmm.
I would do it because I'm stubborn and pig-headed, and I would want to do it, but I'm not somebody who's like I'm not musically enough to pull it off. I would need double the amount of time.
Mm, gotcha.
I think I could do it. I really do. I would just need double the time to get over my self-consciousness and to like get my voice back somewhere where I'm at least somewhat in control of it. Like and then see where we'll go from there. But we've all dreamed about that too, haven't we?
Yes, we have. If I could sing, I'd never shut up. That's what I tell my
Yeah,
wife all the time. Well, I still don't shut up, but I'd keep
yeah,
doing more.
yeah.
You started on stage. How'd you land your first screen role?
My very first job on screen was X-Files.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, I played the young orderly in episode. Can't remember the episode. Kitsun Gary episode season 5 X-Files. The old-fashioned way went and auditioned, and it was such an interesting show because they wanted such flat performances. They wanted such tiny performances. And I remember it was the 30-second teaser that opens the whole show. I'm a young orderly who's looking after the pusher, Robert Wisdom, and putting him in the cell. And somehow they find me the next morning, and he's whispered in my ear, and they find me banging my head on the wall, going, "He had to go." But there was a director by the name of Daniel Sackheim, who I will forever be grateful for because he was my very first director. But he's an intense guy, and he always looks like he's going to have a heart attack. Um, and he was stressing me out because there's a scene where I'm grabbing the doorknob, and we did it 14 times, and I'm thinking, how badly am I screwing this up? Like we keep doing it over and over again, and finally a crew guy was like, "It's not you, kid. He thinks he's shooting a feature." And I was like, "Okay, good." I ended up shooting 5 days. I was
Damn.
there 5 days. We reshot it. We did second unit. We reshot it in 3 main days. 5 days on the teaser, and I was like, I got a giant check out of it, like $5,000 check for 5 days of work. I was like, just out of theater school. I was like, oh my god.
Right. Were you a
Yeah,
fan of the show at all?
I was. Yeah, I was. It was kind of a creepy, fun show.
Mm,
Again, I didn't watch a lot of television, but not a bad first gig though, right?
right. Do you remember being nervous for that one? A lot of nerves.
Yeah.
First big screen
Oh
gig
yeah,
on a big TV
hella
show.
nervous. Yeah. And this director was so intense. Like he made me nervous.
Mm.
And he hired me years later, and I told him, and I think years later I'd done like 50 or 60 jobs, and I told him I was like, "Do you know that I've done 50 jobs now? You're the very first." And I'm like, "And you still make me nervous." And he's like, why? Why do you want? Why do I make you nervous? I'm a kid. I want you to do well. Why should I make you nervous? I'm like, because of this. um, and I swear to God, if I worked with him today, I'd probably be nervous.
What was his name again?
Daniel Sackheim.
Okay, I
He's
don't.
a huge. He's done tons of big shows. Hi, Daniel, if you're hearing. I get along with him. I personally like him. He knows what he wants. But he's intense. It's
Mm,
intense.
mm.
Yeah.
So I know you're only credited as trooper in this movie, but I remember seeing this movie in theaters growing up, and that's Lake Placid.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what do you recall about your time on set on that one?
Well, one was being able to briefly meet Betty White. Like, how cool is that to
Yeah,
have that crossover with her? I have an interesting story about that, and I don't think I've ever publicly told it. So I'm not. I don't think I'm going to tell it because it's one of those like I don't want to make anyone look bad. But
understood.
I had a funny day on that because yeah, I can't. There's no way for me to tell the story without kind of name dropping, and I don't want to. I just there's so much of that in my business. I don't want to do
No
that. I don't
pressure.
want
No
to.
pressure.
Yeah, I don't want to tell a kind of a mean spirited story, and not mean by me, but um, yeah, it was a fun movie to do. It was a fun movie to do, and a little part. I'll tell you one thing: directors are always shocked when, especially when I was younger, and they would ask me to shave, and then they go, "Oh fuck, he's a kid," like because I was pretty young in
I
that
shaved
movie. Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. So I'm the state trooper, and I'm probably back in that year. I was probably had a goatee. I play the state trooper, and then I show up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we need you to shave." And I'm like, "Okay," and I would warn them, but I'm like, "I'm 25. I am what I am." You're like, and then they look and they go, "Oh, okay, well, baby," and I have a baby face under this grizzle. So yeah, so they'll always be a little bit like, "Oh," I'm like, and the funny thing is too, they're doing it now, but for years I was like, "Cops have goatees, guys. Cops have that stuff." Yeah, well, it's kind of it's perception. I'm like, oh my god. It's like it's so funny sometimes the little tropes that we hold on to, like
The cop stash is a real thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kyle, you're also responsible for one of the voices of my childhood, Dragon Tales Ord.
yeah,
And I've
yeah.
heard you say in interviews that you don't like doing the voice because you started smoking or something along those lines.
Oh well, well, my funny story about that is when I was first doing it, I'd be at like an agency party or something like that for Christmas or something, and you're drinking, you're smoking, da da da, da, and it's an adult, and then you'd get this like tug on your thing going, "Excuse me, are you Ord?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So times when you wouldn't. It was my first time realizing that now I have the responsibility of a younger generation that is watching what I do. Um, you're never prepared for that, by the way. You're never prepared for the attention you're going to get and how that reflects on like your personal life and what kind of clothes you should be wearing or what kind of actions you should be seen doing or not doing. You're never prepared for that. Um, yeah, so that and then it turned into like you're a 40-year-old guy and somebody who's like 20 smoking hot 25-year-old comes and goes, "Oh, Ty Olsson, you were my childhood," and you're like, "Thank you for that." Now I feel 100.
Is that your longest? Is that your longest tenured role still? To is Ord?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we did 96 episodes of that. Uh,
Wow, that's a lot.
96, 94, somewhere in the 90s. Yeah, yeah. And it really is one of those lovely things. Jokes aside, it's one of those lovely things because people do go, "You're my childhood,"
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, "Yeah, yeah." And they love that. They love that I played Ord, and then often the same people are fans of Supernatural, and they're like, "You played Ord and Benny?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
it happens.
yeah, it happens. Yeah.
So,
Um,
do you recall being given much direction for the voice, or did you just nail it?
I think they loved my voice. With Ord, I had to be careful to not make him special needs. Do you know what I mean? Because he was so childlike that sometimes it was easy to slip into like, no, no, like
Yeah,
let's be
yeah.
careful. And I would take, not doing much theater. It was one of my chances to be theatrical again. So I would like to take him a little too far sometimes. But that's the lovely thing about it. They're like, let's tone that down. And then they would try to get him to sing. And they'd have to give me one line at a time so I could hear the notes. Um, yeah, he's got a special place in my heart.
Mm.
Yeah.
Did you guys record that ensemble like all together, or was it like just individual bit parts?
Usually we did.
Mm.
And they hate me for this, but the nice thing about voice stuff is it's kind of more flexible if you have other stuff going on. So it's really hard to cancel a day of TV show, like if you're on a TV show, because there's so many people involved. But if you're doing a sound thing, one person not being there, they can slot in later, so they don't like that. It's not ideal, but it happens all the time. Um, So it's nice to be able to do a show where you don't have to necessarily shave or shower in the morning as long as you're not too close to anybody. Yeah, you can just show up and do your thing.
When it comes to Benny from Supernatural, what do you recall about that audition? Was it typical? Anything stand out about it?
The original scene that they wrote for the audition was pretty fantastic. It was a monologue about his father making him kill the family dog in the backyard, and it was really creepy and really good. And I had so much fun with it. Yeah, it was just such a well written monologue. I was like, I hope this is in the show somewhere. It wasn't. It was never in the show, but then he had lots of great scenes. So
He did. So was the accent, the sort of the Cajun flair, was that a difficult dialect for you to nail?
uh,
Did
it
you have
it
experience with
was
it?
it wasn't only because it was written in so well in the original material that it just flowed out. And I don't even know that I knew exactly where it was coming from at first. It just kind of like I don't think I'd ever done a Cajun accent before, but it just was written in so well. The writers had done such a good job that it was the only accent that it's like sounded right. So
Yeah.
I give all the credit to them on that. I'm glad it was written so well too because it just flowed.
So what would you say is the most difficult dialect you had to tackle?
Probably one I never got. Like an Aussie accent is so difficult, so tricky.
Yeah.
Uh, could you imagine trying to do South African? Like That's those ones are crazy. But even British, I always piss me off. Do a British accent from where? Where in Britain?
Yeah, there's like 50.
Yeah, like if he's yeah, there's 50 and there's like five per class,
Yeah.
like real recognizable ones. And you're like, okay, so is he a Scouser? Is he from Liverpool? Is he from fucking like where is he from? Like, yeah. I'm not bad at accents. I just, I think like anything, you just need to have the time to have confidence. You
It's
know.
like doing New Zealand or doing Australian. That's nearly impossible for my ear.
I know they're really weird, right?
Yeah.
The nar. Nar. Oh no.
Usually you've worked on a lot of TV shows over the years, but when it comes to Supernatural, what, in your opinion, what's the secret sauce that kept that show going for as long as it did?
That's a really good question. I think the fact that those two boys liked each other is a big part of it. So then they had good chemistry together, which then inspired the creative team behind them to keep going. So I think the fact that those two had good chemistry probably went a long way into keeping the show going, and the fans too. Just having the fan base to like push it. Apparently, it was like there's a few times when they didn't think it was going to go. Like it was big in Europe, but wasn't big here, kind of thing, and or vice versa. And yeah, I think just probably a good what's the word? Showrunner, like somebody who's like knows where the show should be, is able to put all the ducks in a row to get it happening, to get people lined up that are all on the same page. I mean, I think they had three different endings for Supernatural. They kept going, well, we ended it here. We planned for year five, but let's keep going. Okay, we'll plan for year 10, but let's keep going.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess I mean, it's it's turned into a bit of a cultural phenomenon, hasn't it? So, I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, 15 seasons and crazy. I don't know. It's, the real question is they've tried to do like 5 pilots already, or like spin-off pilots, and they haven't worked. How do you catch lightning in a bottle again? You know,
If you
it
can
might
answer that,
just
yeah.
it might just be one of those shows that that you're never able to really duplicate. They've done it with shows like Frasier came out of Cheers. That was a big, but this one just I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they.
And those Jensen and Jared specifically, they did that for so long. If you watch the earlier seasons, they're like little kids and then they're grown
Yeah,
men. So they probably
yeah,
just want to do other things. They
yeah,
probably
yeah,
just got to explore.
yeah. Well, and I think they're both having fun now. Like Jensen's been doing The Boys, and Jared had Ted Walker, and I think where's Jared? He's doing something too now, a new
I think he's
show.
doing the boys next season. Or
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
he is. I don't know.
yeah,
But in my opinion, this isn't a rumor or anything. I think they just wanted to go their separate ways and then maybe they'll come back together in a few years.
yeah, yeah. They might. I mean, Supernatural, nothing ever dies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely might. They needed a break though for creativity too. Um, I think I mean, lucky for them, they neither of them got stuck. They're both working again right away. Um, but I think you have to be careful about that. Sometimes when you make playing such iconic characters, sometimes it takes a long time for the world to see you in other stuff. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're just like, no, that's Sam, that's Dean.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
mentioned being a fan of Hostel earlier. Did you talk to Eli about that when you worked with him on Thanksgiving?
I don't remember if I did, but I certainly hope I did. Because I really did enjoy it, and I'm very picky about that kind of stuff. He's lovely to work with, by the way. He's a fucking great guy, and um I worked with him on Thanksgiving. I haven't seen it yet, but my best scene in the movie is the one that got cut out. Uh, it's in the extras, hopefully, so I'm gonna go check it out someday. It's a great scene with Patrick Dempsey, but I kind of get why they probably didn't put it in the movie, like a little bit too much uh given away. But working with Eli was great.
Now, this is just an odd coincidence. I recently spoke with Mark Gardner, and he's a prominent Old West historian,
Okay.
and most of our chat was about Billy the Kid.
Uh-huh.
I love Billy the Kid growing up. I was, cowboys and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So did you do much diving into the story of Billy and stuff for your role on the Billy the Kid series?
I did a little bit. My character was a historically accurate figure. Well, that's not accurate, but he's there. There's
Yeah.
history on him. Um, he screwed that whole situation up pretty good. So I liked how they'd be told that. He apparently got court-martialed multiple times, once for being an alcoholic. So it was kind of fun to kind of pepper that in. I would make sure he would have a drink in certain scenes, and like um, when he had to make the decision about firing on the house and lighting a fire on the house and pouring himself a drink. So such interesting. What a beautifully like. There's so much texture to that show, right? Just the period piece like that. When we were shooting it, we got a snowfall uh, out in the little town. It's just stunning to look at. But wow, crazy! What a crazy time of history that was.
Yeah, I've always been very interested in how we sort of romanticize the Old West, and cowboys are kind of like our version of knights from
Yeah,
England, but
yeah,
it's especially Billy the Kid. He's a sympathetic character.
yeah,
He
yeah.
died so young.
It's probably good though, because otherwise, how do you change his nickname?
Yeah, you can't be Billy the Kid at 40.
Yeah, you're kind of committed to it,
Yeah,
you know.
it had to be done. So, Ty, what would you say is the best acting advice you've received, and who gave it to you?
I mean, I think I'd love to have this great quote for you, this little soundbite. But I went to a theater school with a lot of teachers that I really respect and admire, and I think just the combination of all of their wisdoms over the years, have just made me the actor that I am, and I'm so grateful for that. So shout out to Studio 58 and all of the faculty members there, even the ones that I fought with, because they really did give me the very best. toolbox to work with. Yeah,
Mm, well
yeah.
said. Remember your
Here's
lines.
the
That's a good one.
yeah, but here's the thing: what directors don't understand is we should never show up not knowing our lines. It's that we get nervous, and then the lines go goodbye. You know. Um, so the idea of know your lines is like, well, yeah, that's obvious, but also, hey, relax. We're making a movie. We're not saving lives here. You know. So I think because actors are best when they're able to play.
Mm,
And so I think that's why you know, I'm trying to recommend that young actors try to find a playfulness always, even when their job is serious.
yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most challenging role or project you've worked on?
Um, I played an ex MMA fighter in the year 2045 in the far Canadian North with the last oil and gas reserve up there, and it was challenging because he was number one and he was in every scene, and there was a ton of dialogue, and it was in the schedule. It was like go 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 go, but it was also rewarding because it was great to be the title character that is pushing everything forward. Um, what a privilege to kind of lead the ship. Um, but that's a great kind of challenging. Um, it's much worse kind of challenging when the script's not ready and you're trying to fix it on the fly and it doesn't sound like how humans talk. And but you're struggling with you're fighting with the director or the writers about how to make this work, and that's that's a kind of demanding that's not fun. That's the worst kind of is when uh, I'm an expert in my field, and so you hire me because I'm an expert in my field. So let me do what I do, and don't and sometimes if you're God, this is there's no easy way to say this without sounding kind of arrogant, but sometimes as a writer, if you haven't been as a writer haven't been given the time to workshop it, to hear it from actors, to go, okay, let me take plays get workshopped for years before they go up because every character is important, every line's important. So you have to but I don't think film and television writers ever get that. So they might hear it for the first time on set. They might hear that line for the first time out loud, um, and they might hear it in their head perfectly, but we all are in your head. Um, so I think sometimes they're set up for a failure too, in that if a script comes and it's not ready and it's tough because the dialogue is a bit tricky, like that's just frustrating for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I've,
Anytime people try to cut corners, never works. You know.
and most, and not even, that's not even just film, that's everything.
Yeah, that's life. Yeah.
And I haven't written anything of note, but I have published short stories and stuff. And one of the things I always do is make sure to read it out loud or have it
Yeah.
dictated back to me so nothing sounds wonky or
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. 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 Smart.
Yeah. So, a question I like to ask everyone at the end is have you ever had an experience that you would consider supernatural, paranormal, or an event you can't explain?
Yeah. So I'm not really a big supernatural like ghosts and stuff at all, which makes it a cooler story. I was doing a gig in the UK, and we were staying at this old manor house, one of the oldest ones in the Birmingham area, and there's story, and it's true apparently, but there was a back in the day there was a priest locked in the bell tower part of the building. So the place is supposed to be super haunted. And so I was in the old wing and I remember sleeping, and I sleep fairly soundly, or certainly did then. And I was asleep, and I remember distinctly the feeling of somebody sitting on the end of the bed. The weight of somebody sitting on the end of the bed. And I was just so stupid. This is so typical me. I remember feeling the weight and going, somebody's not on the end of the bed. I'm alone. Oh shit. Like if it's what are you gonna do? If you open your eyes and look, you're gonna be awake. And then what? If it's a ghost, what are you gonna do? Now you're gonna be wide awake. Just close your eyes, go back to sleep. Like just keep your eyes closed, and go back to sleep. And so I did. But I the feeling of somebody sitting on the end of the bed is so distinct.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, but I never opened my eyes. I just was like, go back to sleep.
If that ever happens to me, I'm gonna take your approach. Save my sanity.
Yeah. I'm like, you need your sleep. Just go back to sleep. It's fine.
Now, do you consider yourself, I don't know, like you said, you're not a big supernatural guy, religious, spiritual, anything along those
uh,
lines?
no, I'm not religious. Um, I think we're all spiritual in some ways, but I don't spend too much time worrying about any of that stuff. I feel like I have a friend of mine who's very deeply religious, and he prays for me. And I'm like, thank you. I'm glad somebody's got it covered. So, I just, I just try to be a good person and try to be a bit better every day, and try to make up for the mistakes I've made, and move on in life, and yeah, I'll leave that stuff to. There's so many people, even today. Like, look what's going on in Gaza and all that. Like, there's so much death in the name of religion, and there's so much. Just honest, honest to God, I wish we would just put it all aside and just go. Come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you,
Yeah.
man.
It's really easy to know the basic premises of being a good human without religion. It's very hard if you believe in religion and you've got 1,000 pages of things to interpret what that means, and suddenly look at how anytime you organize something, it corrupts. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yeah. Well
I think
said.
something as simple as the Ten Commandments is about as complicated as shit should get. Because anything after that, you'll get somebody interpreting it that all gays should be fucking banned,
Yeah.
and that like that women should be wearing canvas tents or whatever. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous. I wish we could all just move on and as adults.
I've got one commandment, and that's don't be an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's not that hard,
Yeah.
guys.
If we all follow that, we'll all be cool.
Yeah. I saw this little clip or Instagram video, and I can't some religious leaders like, you want to know how to act? Look to the atheists. They do things. They act like normal, good humans in society, and they don't have a god telling them what to do.
Right.
Look to them. Look to them. If you want to know what to do for your god, look to them.
Look to the
And
godless.
yeah, because they seem to be doing okay. Organized religion's the most unfortunate thing that's ever happened to us as a species. And I'm not saying that's got nothing to do with the existence of God. I mean, Ricky Gervais says the same thing. It's like you asking Stephen Colbert, saying, so there's like 3,000 gods in the world, right? That people believe in. He goes, I believe in uh, one less than you believe in. It's like, how's your God right?
Yeah.
What's the mathematical odds that you pick the right one? Not very good. And the fact that I believe in none and you believe in one, we're pretty close. We almost agree. There's because we both agree that 299,000, 2,900, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I said,
crazy.
man, I live in the South, so we're Southern Baptists all day long, and I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
raised by my grandmother, and I remember getting in trouble as a kid. She's trying to give me the Bible study, and tells me the story of Lucifer and his fall from grace, and I sit there and I go, "What? He doesn't sound like the bad guy to me," and that was it. I'm sitting there saying the devil doesn't sound like the bad guy. I've got
Uh,
to have an exorcism.
she still don't talk to you, right?
No, she got over it. She was like, "Something's wrong with this kid."
I just saw, and I haven't counted it. I just saw that somebody said that there's 2,000 times in the Bible that it says, "Look after the poor." And people focus on the one time that he may or may have not said one thing about something else. It's like, but you ignore 2,000 references to look after the poor, and I will return it upon you tenfold, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So easy to just ignore those 2,000. Like
It's cherry picking.
you got evangelist preachers in their million, taking their $1 million jets and multi-million-dollar homes and giant churches, and yeah,
It's ridiculous.
crazy.
All right, Ty, just to put a bow on this thing here, man. Is there anything on the horizon coming out that you can share without getting in trouble or breaking any
God,
NDAs?
hopefully some work. We It's been such a strange year with the strikes and everything. I am doing a video game that I'm not allowed to talk about, but I hope I have a video game that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but I'm hoping I can soon. But I haven't heard from them in a while, which makes me worry that I'm getting fired. We'll see.
I hope not.
I hope I hope not too. You never know these days.
Maybe they're
Um,
just, reworking things.
yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I've got a video game that's ongoing, but I'm not sure where it's at. I haven't heard from them in a little while. That stuff takes so long, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you go in, you do a couple of days of motion capture and voice stuff, and then you don't hear from them for a year. So, no, we'll see. Hopefully auditioning. Hopefully this. I booked a vacation in February, so I'll definitely probably get a job during that because that's usually how it works. As soon as you book a vacation, somebody wants you to work.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll see. I'll keep you noted. I hope that there's something coming down the pipes. So technically I have a job. I'm not sure when the dates are, but I'd love another job. I'd love a super busy year. We'll see how it
awesome.
goes.
Well, I hope that comes for you, man. And thank you for giving me some of your time again. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, Justin. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right. And you have a great rest of your day. Please give DJ my regards. Big fan of his. And you
I
guys
will
take
do.
care.
I will do, brother. Thank you,
All
man.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.